I'll get started here with this first slide. This is kind of just our initial offering of the Insight product line. Initially, the product line was released under wiring device with just the gateway there you see in the center. That gateway is the actual piece of equipment that connects to the customer's building automation system or Emx Cloud software. That gateway takes the information in from any one of those devices you see there. So the offerings we have are the 250 volt, 480 volt pin and sleeve in the actual pin and sleeve form and or in the receptacle format you see below it. We can retrofit our power monitors onto an existing pin and sleeve like you see down there at the bottom. We can do that with any smart power cable. The top, middle, right, and down there at the bottom in the middle are all smart power cables. We can fit any Hubbell plug-in connector on any one of those types of meters, so they're adaptable and configurable to any situation. Middle right there, you're going to see our environmental monitor. That's our E306 model. That E306 model has outputs for 3 temperature probes. We can do ambient temperature, humidity, dew point at 6 different points and locations with that particular product. And then the bottom right, you see our panel monitor. That is a simple 1 meter, either 1 3-phase circuit or 3 branch circuits, depending upon the configuration that's built. And we can do panel branch circuit monitoring there at that level. So Insight is Hubbell's introduction into the IoT space and smart space. We're really headed towards the building automation. That's where our Emx software would come in, where eventually down the line we'd actually like to bring in our lighting controls hardware as well into this system, which is something we're working on currently behind the scenes today. We service industrial, factory automation, automotive and aerospace, commercial, data centers. Most of the points that we try to hit with this particular product, or one of the bigger ones actually, is the failure prediction and preventative maintenance, allowing the facilities to really have a good insight into their hardware that they're using or their equipment, to make sure that someone is on site and gets an alert of some kind, which I'll get into a little bit later in the Emx software portion. They'll have remote diagnostic and analytics, performance optimization, looking at energy usage, HVAC, refrigeration, and all types of measurements and verification depending upon how efficient or inefficient the equipment is working at that time. And especially for industrial environments, cost allocation has been huge. This is something we actually use this product for internally ourselves. Our operations have actually invested into this product quite a bit, and we've started installing it at our own factories. So that way, a lot of the plant managers don't have to travel necessarily to the plants. They can actually do a lot of remote monitoring here in Shelton from their desk. What you'll see here up at the top left is the type of information you'll get out of the Insight system. So you're going to get current readings, voltage readings, calculated power readings. The pin and sleeve is the only device on our system that you can actually have internal device temperature. So that particular device will actually show you the temperature at the connection point on the lug itself per phase. You'll get utility billable grade metering. So each one of our CTs is over 99% accuracy. So it is billable grade. You can use it for billing for sub-metering and stuff like that. And data trending with our software as well. Some configurations available there in the middle. Again, those were just a handful of configurations upon the initial release of the product. Like I said, we can go ahead and customize those products any which way you see fit using any Hubbell plug-in connector, whether you need to use watertight or you twist lock or straight blade, whatever you need, we can make it work. The system itself is a wireless system, so the only hard connections really are when you wire the actual product so it can actually take its voltage readings. The CTs, we have 3 different types. You have your Rogowski coil types for larger size applications up to 25,000 amps. We have CTs that are split core, which will make it easier for installation, so there's no real disconnect of the wiring itself. You can just clip the CTs on, or solid core CTs if you want something a little bit more that's involved to install, which most people don't. These nodes communicate on a wireless mesh network back to the gateway. The gateways, like I said earlier, is connected to your actual building automation system as well as our Emx software, depending upon which model you choose, which I'll get into in another slide a little later. Each device can be a distance of 30 meters from each other. So no matter what, if you lose one of these devices, let's say in that network you see there to the right, if you lose the middle one, as long as there's another one within 30 meters of it, it will get that information back to the gateway. Any questions so far? So here's our pin and sleeve. Like I mentioned earlier, you'll get current, voltage, power, internal device temperature, utility grade metering, and data trending using our software. And if you are building automation software allows for those same outputs, you'll get the same information there. Down at the bottom are the offerings for the current offers for pin and sleeve. You got your 480 volt 60 amp three-phase pin and sleeve. Then you have your 480 volt 60 amp three-phase pin and sleeve connector. And the same two options there down at 250 volts for the other option for pin and sleeve. You'll notice at the end of each one of these part numbers has a US1 or US2. That is allowing the gateway to split these particular devices up into radio zones. So just like lighting controls, you can actually zone the system out if you don't want them all communicating on the same gateway for any reason, or if we need to split the system up because of there's some type of equipment in the way blocking it, or a steel wall or type Faraday cage type thing going on for you in your facility, we can work that out. Here's the gateway itself. So as I mentioned, the gateway comes in a bunch of different options. There's currently 5 protocols available on either a 30 node or 150 node version of the gateway. You'll also see the US1, US2 designations on there. And what I didn't mention prior was that this gateway, we can go up to 15 radio zones currently. So you can actually split this up into 15 different zones if you needed to for any reason. So the gateways come in our EMX format, which would work directly with our EMX software and platform. You have Modbus TCP/IP, SNMP, Ethernet IP, which is used mostly with our Rockwell partners. We have add-on profiles that we can send the customer if they purchase that gateway, so they can put our device information into their Factory Talk or Studio 5000 software. And then we have MT Connect, which we had developed for a customer specifically for Mazak CNC machines. And we are currently in the process of developing BACnet. We're about 4 weeks into that, 3-4 weeks into that. I had an update yesterday, and we should have final for sale hardware somewhere the end of November into December for BACnet. Any questions again so far?
I just wanted to jump in. If anybody wants to throw a question in the chat too, I'm looking at it, so we'll see it.
Okay, not a problem. This slide here shows the smart power cables. Down there in the bottom left are the current offerings that out of the catalog that you guys can purchase right off the shelf. These are in stock parts. We have some single phase, a couple 3-phase options there, but again, any type of plug-in connector that you guys need, please just work with your local reps and we will get some type of configuration sheet or just an info sheet to fill out for you guys to send us back, and we'll be able to get a price out to them and on the custom piece. But generally it's just a difference of the plug-in connector cost depending upon the application. This would be our smart panel monitor. The ones below there, again, same thing. Those are the ones that are off the shelf you can order today. They come as a kit like you see it there. It can be wired. The newer offerings actually do come pre-assembled, which is great. So that way they don't have to worry about the wiring themselves. It's a little bit of a quicker install. So these here are basically going to be certain panel monitors. You're going to put on, like, let's say a disconnect monitoring a hardwired machine. Mains in a panel, a couple different branch circuits maybe you want to monitor, or a 3-phase circuit. We also offer what's called the Hubbell BG meters. Those are multi-circuit monitors. So those come in a format of, you can get 2 meters, 4 meters, 6 meters, 8 meters, 9 I believe is an odd one that we have, 14, 38, 42, all the way up to full panel type stuff. We can go all the way from the mains down to point of use at this point. And with our newer Rogowski coils at the 25,000 amps, we can actually go even in front of the utility meters as well. Here's our environmental monitors. I know you guys mentioned you did a lot of pharmaceutical and stuff like that. So these have come into play quite a bit in the pharmaceutical, especially the storage areas. We have just recently gotten some of the certifications or basically documentation that a lot of the DEA does require that we've sent out, and so far they've accepted the documentation we have as far as storage goes, which is good. These particular ones here, the E306 model, this is the one where I mentioned you have up to 6 temperature ports getting ambient temperature, humidity, as well as dew point. We offer an E300, which is just an ambient temperature with a battery power. We also offer an E302 battery power as well, which is the same as the E300 for ambient, and then just 2 temperature probes. And we go all the way up into an E312, which can offer 12 different temperature points, just like the E306 does with the ambient temperature, relative humidity, and dew point. Now, if you were to use our Emx software, this is the type of display you would see, particularly on the pin and sleeve. There's a rendering there. You see current for all 3 phases. You see temperature at all 3 connection points. On any meter, you're going to get that same chart off to the right where you're going to see power, current, voltage, voltamps, frequency, and temperature. The temperature you'll see on our other meters are actually just the temperature of the power monitor itself. We monitor the internal temperatures of the actual meters just to make sure there's nothing going on inside those that would alert us to any other issues that may be going on. You'll get an output that looks something like the chart off to the right. Those are customizable. You can display those how any way you want to. If you want to see it in a bar graph or some other type of graph, we can absolutely do that. There's some options in there. You can see it in different time spans. We try to upload at 15-minute chunks, so you'll start to see things, in 15-minute intervals. You can split by phase individually. You can uncheck those colored boxes and actually look at each phase individually. You can export you can export this data into an Excel file, as well as go into the software and make custom reports that you can set up by node, by leg, by phase, whatever you want to do. They're pretty customizable. I actually got some newer training on some additional features yesterday, so I'm getting into that a little bit deeper, which will be really cool to show everyone eventually on our newer launch when that comes out. In the bottom left there, you'll notice that one of those tabs actually is red. This is where I'd like to talk about the alert portion. So basically, you can set a high and low threshold on any device that you have on the system. So that way, just for preventative maintenance purposes or even downtime, you can kind of look at it and say, oh, hey, listen, I know this particular piece of equipment should not run below this or above this. I'd like to set an alert just in case to make sure that I know who to send out there and when, just in case something goes wrong before we have an absolute failure. We can actually set those up to be either email or text message, and you have, from my understanding, an unlimited amount of contacts for those particular points. So you can identify any person within the plant that needs to be contacted, and they'll be notified. And as long as you've named your particular nodes a particular friendly name, which we can do in our software as well, it'll say that in the alert that that particular piece of equipment and where it is down or has an issue. This is just a little bit more data down at the bottom of a different type of graph you could basically pull out of there. You can even create custom dashboards. So there's a tab inside our Emx software that allows you to go in and create the dashboards for individual pieces of information that you want. So let's say you don't want to look at all of this all the time and you don't want to look at it in chart form. You can literally set it up as gauges, graphs, charts, literally an on-off type style application in there as well. They're updating those as we speak too, so there should be a few more options as well that get a little bit more fancy, but customers love that interface and being able to just go ahead and set up what information they want to see and that information only. Another feature they've added to that is actually a custom link. So as long as when you set up that dashboard, you can actually have a link that you can print out a QR code for. And you can put that QR code right on that piece of equipment or hardware that we have in the factory. So if somebody walked over with their cell phone and scanned that QR code, it would bring them directly to that piece of equipment, and they could monitor that equipment real time right in front of themselves. That is just a new piece of the software that we've added over the past week or so in the new update that should be out at the end of the month for the software, which was pretty cool because that was something that we really enjoyed seeing, and that particular person does not need a username and password to see that information, but it also won't let them go anywhere else but view that particular piece of equipment either. So there is a safety feature built into that as well. This picture here shows one of our pin and sleeves inside of one of our Rockwell distributors. They actually asked us to have our pin and sleeve installed on one of their setups so they could actually sell that as part of their system. They've been able to take the add-on profiles that we provided for our gateway and they've installed it, and they're actually demoing the pin and sleeve inside their factory talk software there in that distributor. This slide here just shows the information you'll get with the actual pieces of equipment when you order them. You'll get a nice little sheet that has some QR codes you can scan, so that way there's not any types of crazy paperwork built in. You could pick which one you need and scan that QR code. There's some videos on our website as well that explains how the system works a little bit more. There's some brochures out there that I know a lot of the teams have been passing around and passing along. We've also been sending out a lot of our different configuration sheets and application slides and testimonials that we've been starting to get back a little bit as well to try to help the sales process. So I just wanted to see if there's any more questions, any overall system questions, hardware questions, application questions.